All right, kids, here we are back again for another Wednesday. And I think we can maybe even start counting down. I think that there are 8 Wednesdays left for us. When you say it like that, is a little wild to think about. So let's continue to talk about genetics. We'll do a quick rundown of some of the things we talked about yesterday. And when we finish doing that, we will get into something new for today. And when we get into that, we will have a very quick assignment, and then your day in science will be over. So we have inherited traits, we have learned behaviors, and acquired traits. Today we are going to be focusing more so on the inherited traits. So of the vocabulary we need to know, this is probably the most important for today. We will get into the rest of these later. This word will come up in our lesson today as well. So again, animals, plants, we get our characteristics from our parents. They are passed down to us from our parents. Again, we kind of joked yesterday as if we saw a mama deer and a daddy deer, we would be shocked if they had like a baby hippo as a baby. And that's true, because that's not the type of genetics that would be passed down from the mom and the dad to the baby. So heredity is something that we need to talk about. I think it was one of our first words that we talked about in class yesterday. And it's the passing on of these traits in your physical features from the parents to their offspring. And when we say that word offspring, it's just a fancy way that they put in the tests and the books. It's just a fancy way of saying their kids. It's like the first generation of the kids that they have. So it's, if you have two parents, that first generation of descendants. So if you're at your mom and dad's house, any kids that they have, that's their offspring. Your grandparents, like your kid, their kids are like your mom and dad. That's their offspring. It pops up in tests and quizzes. And I just want you to understand what that means so that the word doesn't throw you off, because you pretty much know what's going on here. So if we're looking at this and we're reading it, and I don't know, and it makes sense to me if you leave out one word. Heredity is the passing on of physical feature from parents to their offspring. But there's this word traits that we went over in class yesterday. And when we said that parents pass traits on to their children, to their offspring, we have to understand and be able to define the word trait. And a trait's pretty easy. You know what traits are. It's just a word that we haven't used very often in our lives. Traits are the characteristics that a plant or an animal gets from their parents. And it could be, if you're a flower, it's like your flower color. If you are an animal, it could be your fur color or your skin color, right? No pink elephants out there that we know of. I mean, they're gray typically. That's what happens when you have an elephant. We're not going to see like a herd of gray elephants walk by and there's like a purple one. I mean, that's just not something that's going to happen, because that's not the traits that are passed on from the parents. So our hair color, our eye color, our skin color are the things that are traits that are passed on to us from our parents. And that's something that we're going to take a very close look at today. We watched this in class yesterday, but if you need to go back and have a refresher on this video, it could help you with some of the things that we do today. Jeans, and we all had a good laugh. It's not the Jeans, the type of jeans that you might wear or convince your mom and dad to buy you from the mall or something. Jeans are like this little set of instructions inside the cells that determine what type of traits you are going to inherit. And it kind of gives your body an idea as it's building itself what type of physical features you are going to have. And you get a set of genes from your parents. You get your genes from your parents. We'll get into chromosomes later. Not going to worry about that today. Now, we do have dominant versus recessive genes, and we'll probably spend some time in class with that, because I think that's a little bit more fun to do in class. But we did talk about that yesterday for a while. And I think we had a good time working with those Punnett squares to determine what color eyes a kid could have from a parent versus dominant versus recessive genes. Those dominant genes were very strong. They're in control. The dominant genes overpower recessive genes. As a matter of fact, recessive genes aren't even going to, they're never going to show up unless they are paired with another recessive gene. You can see that in the back here. Brown eyes, brown eyes, brown eyes. It's not until you have two recessive blue genes that you have blue eyes. Oh, goodness gracious. I said blue genes. We could be in real trouble there, right? So the blue eye gene is not going to show up until you have both of the recessive genes showing up here. I think we're getting to like the crux of today's lesson, if I'm not mistaken. After we get through this traits video, I'm going to watch it in class with you for certain. If you want to go ahead and watch it a little bit to kind of give you an idea of what's going on, it could help you with today's assignment. But if you skip it today, it's okay, because we're going to watch this again in class, I promise, because these are really good videos. Better than anything I can find on YouTube for certain. Here's what we are going to focus on today. And we're going to talk about inherited traits, the things that we get from our parents. When I say they are inherited, that is, you get it through genetic transmission. And it's important because that's the things that your parents give you through the genes that they give you. Again, we said things like eye color, skin color, and hair color. You can go through this list, and there's going to be some things in here that might sound a little odd to us. Certainly, we all know what eye color, skin color, hair color is, curly hair or straight hair. And we will have to have a conversation about that because some people use products or they use equipment like a curling iron to curl their hair. That is different. This is the hair that you are born with. Maybe both of your parents have super curly hair and it's wild and crazy and you have to get up in the morning and straighten your hair. That doesn't mean you have straight hair. Your parents gave you the curly hair. So it's what you're born with. Dimples might be something that you don't know what those are. We have a few people in class that have dimples, but we never see them because we all have to wear masks all the time. That's when you have these like indentions in your cheeks when you smile. Freckles, I think we all know what that is. How tall or short you are. Your height is an inherited trait. This is probably going to be a new one. Attached and detached earlobes. I'm pretty certain I have a slide on that. We'll get to that in a moment. A widow's peak. Again, we'll get to that in just a moment as well. Your bone structure, like the way your bones are put together. Now, I know that all of our bones are generally put together in the same form because we have like our skeletons look similar, but we do have some people with very specific bone structures. The shape of our nose. The way that you clasp your hand. And we're going to do this one in class, but you can see that in the background. I know it's on one of these slides right here. When you put your hands together, one of the thumbs naturally goes over top of the other one. And I promise you that if you put your hands together and they look like this, and your thumb is naturally, your right thumb goes over the top of the left, when you switch it, it feels so weird. Same thing for this. When you put your hands together and clasp them, if you naturally put your left thumb over your right thumb, if you switch it to this, such a weird feeling. And it's so odd that that's something that is inherited. And it's always these weird ones are the ones that fascinate me. And I love looking at those in class. But again, we'll do some of that. If you write with your left hand versus your right hand is another thing that you may have inherited. That is it for the video today. I'm going to guarantee you're probably going to use this slide for the majority of what you're going to do for me in class today, and it's only going to take you approximately 5 minutes. And with a 10-minute video, that's about 15 minutes of science. That's not a lot. So what that says is if you're one of those people that needs to finish up your board game, you need to get to work on that for the rest of this time. For those of us that are already finished with the board game, congratulations, you have a very short lesson in science today. I hope you get that done. Make sure you turn in your project for today so that you can go eat outside if that's something that we get to do or whatever other thing that we decide to do. Make sure you get your work done. All right, guys. I will see you later. Have a good one. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe.